Will I get to learn karate?
Karate? The Dane Cook of martial arts? No. Oh my god! You killed a hooker!
Call girl!
No,
She was a
Cyril, when they're dead, they're just hookers. Ironic, isn't it?
I mean, really, darling. Just how stupid do you think I am?
I guess slightly more than...
Archer!
Do you know what's weird? People talk about adult animation like there's this holy trinity. You got Family Guy, you got South Park, you got Smiling Friends. Maybe Rick and Morty or The Simpsons on their good days. But somehow, Archer barely gets brought up anymore, and that's insane to me. Because for a solid stretch of time, Archer wasn't just one of the funniest adult cartoons on TV, it was the funniest. Like, genuinely elite. The writing, the timing, the character chemistry, the visual style, the running jokes. And nobody talks about it anymore. Which, honestly, I think no show deserves a reboot more than Archer. So, if you've somehow still never seen Archer, first off, you want to fix that. Second, I get how crazy generic the premise sounds on paper. It's a spy comedy about an emotionally unintelligent, alcoholic, man-child James Bond with mommy issues, which really doesn't sound that revolutionary. But Archer worked because of its execution and delivery. The dialogue in this show is absurdly good. It wasn't just funny, it's not just quotable, it's rhythmic. There's this weird musical timing Archer had where characters would constantly interrupt each other, misunderstand each other, derail each other's conversations, or call back something random that happened from 5 episodes ago. But it never feels messy. It somehow feels natural. And that workplace dynamic is what made Archer different from basically every other adult animated show at the time. Most adult shows build around the chaos. Family Guy has its cutaways, The Simpsons do everything, and South Park does satire. Archer built itself around its chemistry. These characters bouncing off each other was the show. And the crazy part is, there really wasn't a weak link. Archer himself should have been completely unbearable. Like, if you met the guy in person, you would want to throw a drink in his face within the first 30 seconds. But H. John Benjamin, the one and only Bob Burger, who might be Archer, we'll get into that, plays him with this weird mix of confidence and security that somehow makes him just lovable. Then you have Lana, who is the only remotely competent person in the building, which naturally means she's got a superiority complex. And Mallory Archer, I will stand by this, is still one of the greatest adult animation characters ever written. She's basically just corporate narcissism turned into a human being, which that's the ultimate satire, if you ask me. And Pam, she kind of slowly evolves from this boring HR lady to this completely unhinged, like, goblin. And Cheryl, she's insane. Anything she does in this show is insanity. Except for when she's totally normal Cheryl. Those of you who have finished the show should know what I'm talking about. And then you have Krieger, who's like, if you turned war crimes into a person. And you have Cyril.
Hello. What? Hello. Hello. Hello.
And somehow, all of them work perfectly together. But the real reason the cast works is because Archer understood something that most adult animation completely forgets. Characters are way funnier when they're consistent. Not stagnant, not flanderized, consistent. You knew exactly how anybody would react in any given situation, and the comedy came from watching those personalities collide. One of my favorite things about Archer was how weirdly intelligent the writing was. The show references Cold War politics, obscure historical facts, classical literature, military terminology, psychology, art history, and then immediately follows it with somebody getting shot in the foot. Most likely Cyril. It never stops to explain a joke, it never pauses and goes, hey guys, look how smart we are. It trusts its audience. And that's something you don't see anymore in modern comedy. A lot of shows now either over-explain every joke, or they become so irony or meta-poisoned that nothing feels sincere anymore. Archer somehow balanced both. It could make a genuinely clever reference, while also having Archer scream M as in Mancy. Another thing that people forget is that Archer looked different. Most cartoons would go for efficiency, simple rigs, simple movement, bright colors, fast production. Archer had this weird, semi-motion comic aesthetic. Everybody looked sharp, the lighting was cinematic, the environments had detail. It almost looked like a graphic novel animated by people who were dangerously sleep deprived and overdosing on caffeine. And because the visuals were more grounded, the insanity became even funnier. Watching a realistic looking spy thriller setup completely collapse because Archer won't stop bullying Cyril? That contrast made the comedy hit different. Now, here's where things get a bit complicated, because Archer absolutely lost momentum, and pretending otherwise is code. The coma seasons completely changed the trajectory of the show. And look, I actually think parts of those seasons are underrated. Visually, some of the best stuff the show ever did. Creatively, I have to respect the risk. But they lost the core dynamic. And Archer without the original workplace chemistry starts feeling weirdly empty. Because the real premise of Archer was never the espionage. The real premise was, what if the least emotionally equipped people imaginable had government authority? And when the show drifted too far from that, you noticed how much the character interactions carried everything. Except for that time they turned Archer into Bob Belcher for an episode. Yeah, they really did that. And what's crazy is that it works. Season 4, Episode 1, Fusion Riffs, opens with Archer cooking burgers for Bob's family. He gets confronted by people who he thinks are robbers, but they turn out to be KGB ops. We then find out Archer genuinely believes he's Bob Belcher. Long story short, everyone comes to find him, and while still not knowing he's Archer, torments everybody just the same during their rescue. So my headcanon is that Archer's actually Bob, and what we see in Bob's Burgers is all within the time span of Archer's amnesia. This really connects to a bigger problem with the adult animation industry right now though. A lot of modern adult cartoons feel engineered instead of written. They're trying so hard to become memeable or socially relevant that they forget to actually build strong casts. Everything becomes loud character says random thing, or reference cultural event, or trauma but make it marketable. And Archer avoided that for years because it focused on dialogue first. Not shock value, not internet discourse, just genuinely good comedic writing. Like, think about how many Archer quotes people still use without even realizing where they came from.
And if you want to get schlots into you...
Phrasing. Seriously, Lana, call Kenny Loggins, because you're in the danger zone.
Yep.
This show had culture for a while. So, when I say Archer deserves a reboot, I don't mean a lazy nostalgia cash grab. I mean a real creative reset, because the ingredients are still there. The world is honestly perfect for Archer right now. Corporate incompetence, government incompetence, burnout culture, fake professionalism, that's Archer's entire DNA. And weirdly enough, I think the show would hit even harder right now than it did originally. Here's the thing. Adam Reed has already said he feels like Archer has come to a natural conclusion. But if they were to bring it back, they need to not modernize the humor, because that's how they will kill it. You don't have Archer start making TikTok jokes, you don't make everybody overly self-aware, and you don't turn it into Rick and Morty but spies. The reboot only would work if you double down on what made the original series special. Its fast dialogue, the character chemistry, the crazy delivery on lines, absurd escalation, and competent visual direction. And in my opinion, shorter seasons, like 8 to 10 episodes with no filler, every episode tightly written. The main reason I think Archer sticks with people like me is because underneath all the insanity, the show was weirdly human. Like, these are objectively horrible people, but they're horrible in believable ways. Archer is desperate for validation, Lana wants control because nobody else is competent, and Mallory weaponizes emotional manipulation because vulnerability terrifies her. Even the dumbest jokes usually come from a character's flaws. That's why the comedy lasts, because it's rooted in personality instead of chaos and randomness. And I genuinely think Archer influenced way more modern comedy than people give it credit for. The hyper-fast dialogue, the anti-comedy timing, the deadpan reactions, the constant callbacks. You can feel Archer's DNA in a lot of internet humor now, but because the show slowly faded into irrelevancy instead of ending at its peak, people stopped treating it like it's one of the greats, which is unfair, because peak Archer absolutely belongs in the conversation with the best adult animation ever made. I think part of the reason Archer feels underrated now is because it came from a different era. Before shows were fighting become clips on TikTok, before every joke got turned into discourse, before streaming completely destroyed attention spans. Archer trusted you to keep up. It didn't scream for your attention every 2 seconds. It didn't constantly explain itself. It just threw you into the chaos and expected you to swim. And when it was firing on all cylinders, there really wasn't another show like it. So, yeah, I think Archer deserves a reboot. Not because Hollywood needs more reboots. God knows we have enough of those already. But because there's still nothing filling the space Archer left behind. No other adult animated series has really captured that same mix of smart writing, absolute stupidity, stylized action, and unbelievably good character chemistry. And if they ever do bring it back, they need to remember one thing. Archer was never about spies. It was never about espionage. It was about dysfunctional people pretending to be professionals, which honestly might be the most timeless concept ever created. Also, Cheryl definitely doesn't belong in at least 75 countries. Hi, it's Yubel. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I put a lot of time and effort into this and watched Archer in its entirety again. If there's any other show you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments. I'll be sure to read them. If you enjoyed, which hopefully you did since you made it this far, please like and subscribe. It would help me a lot. I'm trying to grow on here. This is my first video essay, and I'm trying to get better as I go. And your support would mean a lot. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a great night or day.